y'all, I'm Jeanette Keynes from Jewelry Arts Inc. In this video, I'm going to show you how to avoid the dreaded dot. This is a really serious problem when you're setting a faceted stone, so I'm going to show you how to avoid it and how we're going to deal with it once it happens. So everybody check out this beautiful ring. Look at that. Beautiful, chunky and silver with a little gold accent on top. Hot stuff. So what we have here is a problem that that happens to a lot of people, and I want to show you all the evidence that led us to this conclusion and what we're going to try to do to fix it. So we were at the stage that it's like, okay, it's time now to get ready to set. Now it's a faceted stone. Lovely. Now when we originally made the bezel, like when you're making a bezel or a setting for a faceted stone, you're gonna put the flat of the stone on the bottom, and you're going to take your dividers and you're going to measure the height of the entire stone, like so, okay? That's how high your bezel needs to be when you actually set it. Now, normally, if I'm making the bezel, I make it actually a few millimeters higher because, like, you're going to have to sand it. Maybe we drop it on the floor, maybe blah, 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 blah. You know, we give ourselves a little bit of extra. So we started off higher. Now, what happened? Getting ready to set, and we put everything in there, and you see the shiny silver that we had on the bottom? You see that dot in the middle? That is an extremely telltale mark. It's like the scarlet A. What that means, if you're putting everything in there with your inner bezel, like, you know, we made our inner bezel and our shiny back sheet, we put the stone in, if it makes that dot, that means the culet of the stone, which is the bottom of the stone. By the way, that comes from the Latin for the anus. So you'll never forget that term now. True story.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the hiney of the stone. It means that the hiney of the stone is actually physically touching the bottom of the setting. Now, we can't have that because when we go to set, it'll probably get pressed in there more. So it's extremely possible, A, that the stone will break. Even a diamond, if like the culet gets pressed against the bottom, it could break. It's also not going to reflect light as nicely, even if it doesn't break. And normally, it's just, if that happens, you're never going to go forward because it could break when you're setting, and who the fuck wants that, right? So I said, oops, let's double check what happened with our measurement. So what we have here, the height that we have to have when we set is the height of the entire stone. So that's basically like this, right?
You blew it yours back because it's flat.
It's okay. If you take it and hold it up against the bezel, now she's got a thick back sheet on here, so I'm going to put the bottom of this at the top of where the back sheet is. You can see that the height of the whole stone is higher than the bezel we have here. So obviously, boo-boos happen. You know what I mean? Accidentally, it got sanded down a little bit too far. So I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? So there's a couple things. The table of this stone is relatively high because when we actually physically set the stone, the bezel is going to be just above the girdle. You know, that extra height there that you include in the measurement is the height that's making sure that the stone won't hit the bottom. So I'm like, okay, there's a possibility that if we make a taller inner bezel, that we will make up that height, that there'll be enough extra in there to keep it off the bottom. So that's our next step of our adventure, is making sure, you know what I mean, that it won't touch. So we're going to try to make a taller bezel, and we're going to put a new shiny silver in there that doesn't have a dot so that we can see for sure if it makes a dot. Now, if it does, let's just say like we don't have enough. I kind of think we will have enough. You know, we'll make another video for that to show you how it turns out. But we have two options if that doesn't happen. Option one, set the stone upside down, which can be, with certain stones, actually very beautiful. Of course, I'm going to shove this in here and never be able to get back out. So that would be, you know, like that, right? And I bet you're looking at that and going like, that doesn't look bad. I don't mind that, right? So that's an option. Now, another way that you could go about it, because a lot of people will be like, oh, I'll just open up the back. Now, for a ring, that really doesn't work, because all that means is then The stone is gonna physically be touching your finger, extremely uncomfortable. And again, the light is just not gonna look good. So for a stone like this, if our inner bezel shenanigans doesn't pay off, that'll probably be what we would do. Another thing you could do, since this is an oval stone, which is not like a very fancy shape, we could always look for another stone, same size, but not quite as deep, because this one is quite deep. So that's another way that you can naughtily. Now, if this were a pair of earrings, you could open the back, because then if it stuck out a little bit, this, you know what I mean, it wouldn't hurt anything, you wouldn't feel it, everything would be fine. A ring is a little more fussy, you know what I'm saying, because your finger's right there. So those are our options. We're gonna make a slightly taller inner bezel, we're gonna make another shiny sheet, and we're gonna see where we are. So just to show you a little close up, there's the dreaded dot, just in case you weren't able to see it in the other shot. It'll be right in the center, and it's a very distinct thing. If you ever see that when you're getting ready to set, you know that you've got an issue with your inner bezel not being high enough. So the dread dot, see it, internalize it, don't let it happen to you.